Leading is the process of influencing people so that they will contribute toward the achievement of organizational objectives. The essence of leadership is followership. Managers at all levels are expected to be the leaders of work group. The ingredients of leadership are: number 1, power; number 2, a fundamental understanding of people; number 3, the ability to inspire followers to perform up to their full potential; and number 4, leadership style. Quite often, distinction is made between managers and leaders. While managers have subordinates, the leaders have followers. While managers often use authoritarian style, leaders have a motivational style. While managers concentrates around shaping the present, leaders looks into the future. While managers sustain the status quo, the leaders create change. And often it is said that managers do things right. On the other hand, leaders do right things. Prior to 1950s, the studies of leadership were focused on identifying the traits or attributes the leader possesses. The big man theory that dates back to ancient Greeks and Romans is based on the belief that leaders are not made but are born. This approach to leadership is referred to as trait approach to leadership. A closely related type of leadership is the charismatic leadership, which is based on the assumption that charm and grace creates followers. Also, people follow others whom they personally admire. John W. Gardner in 1989 published a study of a large number of leaders and concluded that there are some attributes or traits that appear to make a leader successful in any situation. These traits included physical vitality and stamina, intelligence and action-oriented judgment, eagerness to accept responsibility, task competence, understanding of followers and their needs, skill in dealing with people, need for achievement, capacity to motivate people, courage and resolution, trustworthiness, that is, group members need to be able to depend upon and trust the person leading them, decisiveness, self-confidence, assertiveness, and adaptability or flexibility. The trait approach resulted in only limited advances in the understanding of leadership. Not all leaders possess all the traits, or those who possess the traits need not always become leaders. Although it is not a fully articulated theory with well-developed hypotheses, the trait approach formed the basis of most early leadership research. The leadership styles are characterized by the amount of control the leader applies on the followers. Three basic types of leadership styles are: number 1, authoritarian or autocratic style; number 2, participative or democratic style; and number 3, delegative or free rein leadership. In authoritarian or autocratic leadership style, the leader determines the actions of the group without any discussion. The leader gives the directions and the team follows them. In participative or democratic leadership style, the leader encourages the team to be actively involved in decision making. The leader takes the opinion of the team members before making a decision. Democratic leaders have a high concern for both people and work. In free rein leadership, the decision making power is completely left with the group members. The leader tends to adopt a policy of not interfering with group by letting them run themselves. There can be variations within the simple classification of leadership styles. Some autocratic leaders are seen as benevolent autocrats. They will listen considerably to their followers' opinions and suggestions. But when a decision is to be made, they turn out to be more autocratic than benevolent. A variation of the participative leader is the person who is supportive. These leaders, in addition to consulting and considering the opinion of followers, will also support them in accomplishing their duties. The three styles of leadership can be best seen as points on a line ranging from total control to very little control. As far as the authoritarian style of leadership is concerned, the level of control is very high. On the other hand, in a free rein leadership style, the level of control is relatively very low. As far as a participative leadership is concerned, the level of control is moderate. Leadership styles can also be classified as transactional and transformational. Transactional leaders clearly define what their subordinates need to do to achieve their objectives and uses reward and punishment for motivating them. Transformational leaders inspire and motivate employees to innovate and create change that will help to prepare organizations to adapt to the rapidly changing environment. Transactional leaders ensure that routine work is carried out properly, while the transformational leaders look after initiatives that add value. Transactional leaders works within the organizational culture. On the other hand, transformational leaders works to change the organizational culture by implementing new ideas. One of the most popular approaches to defining the leadership styles is the managerial grid model proposed by Blake and Moulton in 1964. The grid has two dimensions, namely concern for people and concern for production. Leadership styles are defined in terms of these two dimensions. The model is represented as a grid with concern for production as the x-axis and concern for people as the y-axis. Each axis ranges from 1 to 9, that is, from low to high. Based on the emphasis on production or people, 5 distinct leadership styles are identified. Impoverished leadership 1-1. This type of leader has very low concern for people and equally low concern for production. The managers with this leadership style exert minimum effort to get the work done by the subordinates. Managers use this style to preserve job and job seniority, protecting themselves by avoiding getting into trouble. Task management 9-1. Here, the leader is more concerned with the production and give less emphasis on the personal needs of the subordinates. The leadership style is also called as dictatorial or parish style, where the subordinates are required to perform the task as directed by the superiors. Middle of the road 5-5. The leader using this style tries to balance between company goals and workers' needs. Both the people and production needs are not completely met, and thus the organization land up to an average performance. Country Club 1-9. Leaders using this style gives more emphasis on security and comfort of the employees and give less attention to the output. The resulting atmosphere is usually friendly but not necessarily very productive. Team management 9-9. In this style, high concern is given both to people and production. Leaders choosing to use this style encourage teamwork and commitment among employees. According to Blake and Moulton, this is the most effective leadership style. The leadership continuum model identifies 7 styles of leadership across a continuum from maximum to minimum exercise of authority. At one end, the leader exercises maximum authority by making decisions without consultation and tells the team what to do. At the other end, the manager allows staff the full freedom to make decisions they want. As per the model, the leadership styles range between two extremes of autocratic and free rein. Moving from left to right, the team's freedom increases while the manager's authority decreases. The 7 styles of leadership identified by the continuum model are: number 1, telling, where manager makes decision and announces it. Number 2, selling. Rather than just tell, the manager needs to sell the decision as there is a possibility of some resistance from team members. Number 3, suggesting. That is, manager presents ideas and invites questions. Number 4, consulting. That is, manager presents tentative decision subject to change. Number 5, joining. That is, manager presents problem, gets suggestion, makes decision. Number 6, delegating. That is, manager defines limits and asks the group to make decision. Number 7, abdicating. That is, manager permits subordinates to function within limits defined by the superior. In the mid-1960s, Fred Fiedler, a scientist who studied the personality and characteristics of leaders, proposed a model which states that there is no one best style of leadership. Instead, a leader's effectiveness is based on the situation. According to Fiedler's contingency theory of leadership, the effectiveness as a leader is determined by how well the leadership style matches the situation. It is important to realize that in Fiedler's contingency theory, the leadership style is fixed. The leader cannot change the style to suit the situation. Instead, leaders must be put into situations that match their style. Fiedler's contingency model consists of: number 1, identifying the leadership style. Number 2, determining the situational favorableness. And number 3, matching the leadership style with situational favorableness. Identifying leadership style is the first step in using the model. Fiedler believed that leadership style is fixed and can be measured using a scale called Least Preferred Coworker or LPC scale. The LPC scale asks leaders to think of all the people with whom they have ever worked and then describe the person with whom they have worked least well, using a series of bipolar scales of 1 to 8. A typical set of bipolar adjectives used in the LPC scale would include pleasant or unpleasant, friendly or unfriendly, kind or unkind, and so on. The responses are graded from 1 for the least favorable attribute to 8 for the most favorable one. For example, if the leader feels that the least preferred coworker is unpleasant, a rating of 1 may be given for this attribute. Similarly, if the leader feels that the least preferred coworker is somewhat relaxed, a rating of say 7 may be given for this attribute. Likewise, all the attributes are rated and the sum total of these ratings will be the LPC score of the leader. Individuals with a high LPC score are considered relationship-oriented leaders, whereas low scores indicate a task-oriented leader. This is because relationship-oriented leaders tend to have favorable things to say about their co-workers, while the opposite is true for task-oriented leaders. Situational favorableness was described by Fiedler in terms of 3 empirically derived dimensions. Number 1, leader-member relations. That is, whether the leader is generally accepted and respected by followers and whether they are willing to follow the leader. Number 2, task structure. That is, whether tasks are clear and people held responsible for them. Number 3, leader's position power. That is, whether authority and power are formally attributed to the leader's position. This is determined by the authority and power the leader have to reward or punish the subordinates. If the position power of a leader is weak, task structure is unclear, and leader-member relations are poor, then the situation is unfavorable for the leader. On the other hand, if the position power is strong, the task is well structured, and leader-member relations are good, then the situation is favorable for the leader. Under extreme conditions, that is, when the situation is totally favorable or unfavorable, a task-oriented leader will be most effective. On the other hand, when the situation is only moderately favorable or unfavorable, the relationship-oriented leader will be most effective. In 1971, Robert House introduced a leadership theory known as the path-goal theory. House argued that the goal of the leader is to help followers identify their personal goals as well as understand the organization's goals and find the path that will help them achieve both. According to the path-goal theory, the leader's job is to clarify and set goals with subordinates and clarify the best path for achieving the goals by removing the obstacles. The situational factors contributing to the effective leadership need to be considered and includes employee characteristics such as their ability, experience and needs, and work environment such as task structure, formal authority system, and the system of rewards. The path-goal theory identifies 4 styles of leadership. Number 1, directive, where the leader states what to do and how to do. This is ideal for followers who may have less knowledge or experience. Number 2, achievement-oriented, where the leader sets challenging goals for the team and expects them to perform to their best to achieve it. Number 3, participative. The leader works with his or her followers, considering their ideas and listening to them. Number 4, supportive. This leader gives consideration to the needs and well-being of the subordinates. It is important to make a distinction between leadership and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship refers to the process of creating a new enterprise and bearing any of the associated risk with the view of making profit. An entrepreneur is a person who engages in the process of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship refers to a set of attributes that an individual possesses and practices in starting his or her venture. On the other hand, leading or leadership is the process of influencing and motivating people for the attainment of organizational objectives. People with leadership qualities are found more likely to become successful entrepreneurs. Another distinction is between intrapreneur and entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person who establishes a new business with an innovative idea or concept. On the other hand, an intrapreneur is a person who focuses on innovation and creativity and who transforms an idea into a profitable venture by operating within the organizational environment. An employee of the organization who is authorized to undertake innovation in product, service, process, etc. is known as an intrapreneur. Intrapreneurs operate from within the organizations, while entrepreneurs create new organizations from scratch.